wonderful input and outputs all around together for this WAIF. But I will let him introduce himself. Mr. Kiani, can you take over?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Yes, like Moro said, my name is Kiumars Kiani. Very kind of you, talking about me like that. But yes, I've been on Moro's shows and also, but long time ago. And also, I've been on Angel Lombard's show. I forgot the name of his program. Is obvious is it is not in English. It's in Spanish. But I've been on that too. We had a little interview. But thank you for having me. I have been a radio and TV producer myself, not for WAIF, however, with a sister organization known as Media Bridges
Right,
for
right.
9 years, and then I'm not anymore.
Okay. Well, that was a very wonderful program because I remember being on your programs, Media Breaks on the TV. We have series of shows up there, and I was very, very proud of that program. And but less anywhere else, we know that Media Breaks is no more, unfortunately. But something is coming up. Hopefully, we will have
Yes.
something similar to Media Breaks,
Yes.
which is a very, very important program or TV station that gives a lot of information out there. But again, this is Mr. Kiani. Today, this evening, I'm going to be talking to him about an upcoming movie, excuse me, that is in progress. So we're going to be talking about that and see where that is about. So, Mr. Kiani, in the first place, could you introduce what's the name of the movie you were trying to put together?
Sure, sure. Thank you, Moro. The name is The Mannequin Behind the Curtain.
Okay,
It has a
that's
very
interesting.
it has a very strange name, and lots of people ask me why mannequin and why it's behind the curtain. Well, it's actually based on a play by a very famous Iranian writer known as Sadegh Hedayat,
Okay,
who is very actually famous in France.
okay,
Unfortunately, he's not very liked and popular in Iran
okay.
because
Oh,
of the
wow.
way that he writes, and unfortunately, just like Ernest Hemingway or Van Gogh or these other people that committed suicide,
Okay,
he killed himself. However, that doesn't change anything about he being a genius,
right,
just like
exactly.
these other people, they're genius, but
Right, 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 right.
um,
Did you say he killed himself
yeah, unfortunately, like I said,
in
just like
France or in Iran?
no, in France, in
Okay,
Paris, in
okay,
Paris.
okay.
Um,
Suicide?
yes, and it wasn't like he wasn't like lots of people think like he was depressed or things with that nature. I guess he went too far with the philosophy that he had in his life, and that was willpower.
Right.
He said, like, nobody asked me why I was born. Nobody, but, unfortunately, I don't have control over where I was born, in which family, in which country, but I have, and, nobody knew when and at what time I was born, but I have a control over when I can leave the stage of this theater, grand theater. So
Right.
yeah, so it wasn't, and again, I'm not advocating like anybody should do that. I'm just saying um, it wasn't like one of those ignorant people or depressed person without any reason doing that. So
Right, right,
all I'm
right.
saying is that.
Okay. Well, I know this movie is going to be an interesting movie if it comes up. So, what's your ongoing plans for this movie in America, especially in Cincinnati?
Oh, that Moro. One of the reason I did it in Cincinnati is because even though I was not born in Cincinnati, but I really love this city.
Great.
That's a city that I got my health back, my voice back. You remember I was mute for You
Quite some
know,
time.
yes.
I know.
At least for 1 year here in United States.
Right.
But so the plan is very simple. I'm trying to use most of the talents from here in Cincinnati, such as light people, sound people, you know, and all the people that who would work with me in Cincinnati. And because this story is happening in Cincinnati, it's about an Iranian American psychiatrist who was born here in Cincinnati, born and raised here in Cincinnati, and basically the story is about him. Okay. So you would see lots of scenes being filmed here in Cincinnati,
Right.
And also the other city is the mega giant city, New York City. We're gonna
Right.
do some of the scenes over there.
In New York City.
Yes.
This guy, is he still in Cincinnati?
Well, it's a fictional character. It's a fictional character. I
Oh, okay,
invented
okay, I
him.
got you. I thought you said this guy was born and raised in
No,
Cincinnati.
well, the
Well,
movie.
now I
Yes,
understand. It's
yes,
the movie. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, I understand it. When do you plan actually to get this movie released?
We don't know yet, but this is just estimation. If everything goes well and based on the plan, we're gonna release it sometime, you know, sometime around Christmas of 2016.
Okay.
However, we put a time cushion also. It might be released next year, like 2017.
17, yeah, I understand. It's not easy to for movies to be, especially if you want to really make it impact.
Exactly.
You got to take your time. And I have seen some movies that they've been trying to put, or they put some movies that you watch. Sometimes you think they just been done like that.
Yeah.
But sometimes it might be in the process, in the pipeline for about a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years.
Yes.
I've seen movies that have
Yeah.
been in play or in putting it together. It took them about 3 years.
Yes.
And which is okay, because you have to make sure what the product you are going to give to the public or the people or your client. So anybody out there that uses that product must be a product that is actually the person got to be satisfied with.
That is correct.
So I would not would not be what I would say. I would be very patient, somebody
Yes.
who wants to watch
Yes.
the movie, but again,
Yes.
I want to be patient to make sure that when I watch it, I get the actual ideas.
Sure.
What that movie, because every movie is telling you something.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
So people think going to movies, I mean, you just enjoy yourself, but I mean, you got to, the people who put that movie together, they have something behind that movie.
Yeah.
You got to try to learn it, even if it is a funny movie.
Yeah, that's very true. That was a good point. First of all, I wanted to say I am in fundraising stage of the movie.
Okay,
I'm
understood.
I'm using the crowdfunding, and I couldn't explain the whole thing on that web page, on Indiegogo web page, but the fact of the matter is the money that I'm raising on that page is not the entire budget for this movie.
Okay.
Because this movie is going to be an A-grade movie. That means you're gonna see familiar faces of Hollywood, acting in this movie.
That's
so
great.
You can ask them to do that with $300,000.
It's impossible.
Yes, but this is just a start. When you have this 300,000, at least you can make maybe a scene or two, and then what happens actually, the other investors, have more confidence to chip in more and say, hey, here's the 90% of the budget that you're lacking. Number one. Number two was the message of this movie. That was a great point that you raised up. First of all, the genre of this movie is a psychological thriller slash drama. Number two, this movie, like maybe some movie, like I don't know, like matrix. It deals with consciousness, or some movies might deal with the human soul, but this movie really deals with human responsibility, because before we were talking, we were just talking about some of the stuff, the activities that you're doing. In the society nowadays, it's so easy to have access to legal and illegal drugs.
That is true.
It's and people have this idea of, oh, there should be a magic pill for everything, magic pill for depression, for anxiety, for this, for that. And unfortunately, based on that, our children, our kids, being labeled at school immediately, and they put them on drugs. And in the nursing homes, lots of our senior citizens being overdosed.
Right.
They're docile. When you go to this, I've been there. That's what I'm saying, because, believe it or not, I work with the same field. Like, I work with people with mental disability and so on and so forth. I was in charge of a group home for at least, yes. And then over there, I realized that there were like certain things that shouldn't happen, but we have to change this mentality of there is a magic pill for everything, and instead focus on human responsibility.
Right. Because as they grow up, as they are growing up and with having that toxin thing in their system since they were like really young people, that kind of works still with their system.
Yes.
And by the time they get to a point of being responsible, the drugs take over.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
If I can get it right.
Sure.
So by the time they get, because this is something you're trying to show people how to be responsible.
Yes.
And responsibility starts, you start training people to be responsible since they are babies.
Yeah. Very good.
The very day that they were born.
Yes, absolutely.
You start to teach them how to be responsible.
Yes.
Where to some people, when they listen to this, said, what craziness is that? How can you teach a baby to be responsible? But everything starts to become a baby.
Absolutely.
Every living thing starts to be a baby.
Yes, absolutely.
And it all depends on the nurturing of that baby. So when we say responsibility is how do you nurture that baby or that little thing to become responsible. If the nurture was very bad, the way you nurture that baby probably would not be responsible, and eventually would finally find him or herself put on drugs.
Yeah.
Like I was talking with somebody some time ago. He had an argument. I mean, like what you just been saying concerning about HDD.
Yes.
He says, I don't believe in HDD. I said, why? He says, because it's man-made.
Yeah.
I say, why you say that? He said, because other countries, you don't see this.
Yeah.
And I think about that. I said, you know what? I think he's making a lot of sense on that particular one.
Yeah.
You go to other countries, they don't know what HD
is. Yeah, they just say he's a naughty boy. That's all. Boys are going to be boys, like in my country.
Exactly.
They would say.
So, but if you start to put that person on drugs to calm that person down, you overcoming him. That's like you overdosing that person.
Yeah, exactly.
And eventually he's going to get back to what that boy is a boy. Situational attitude. Yes. Anyway.
Yes, exactly.
It's not going to do anything.
Exactly.
It's a natural course that everybody goes through.
Absolutely, you're right. And in my country, for instance, by the way, I was born in Iran. So when I say my country, I mean America is my country now, but I'm talking about the old country. Yes. But when it was very interesting that automatically people back in Iran, even without going through academic, like psychology or anything like that, they knew, like if somebody is a class clown, they would put him in charge of the class. They would put him in charge of the class. Right. And then next day, you should have seen this guy. He's totally changed because now he's got the responsibilities. Yeah. He's not, acting up. He's not ridiculing people or, teachers. He's a totally different person. Right. So, same thing, like I remember my little brother, when I said my little brother, he's like 20 years younger than me. when he had the same thing, I started and he was very, very little. Like he was only like maybe 3. And I saw him like he's like doing, he was seeking my attention. Then I realized, okay, I need to give him some responsibility. So what I did, I asked him to help me with, the table and help me with this, help me with, in no time, it was totally under control. No more of the, like, just clowning around or goofing around. No more of that. So, I mean, everything, has a reason. Like, kids get bored. Like, they're super, especially today's kids, they're super duper smart. Like, you give them, like, a smartphone or a computer, they know what to do with it. So what does it tell you? That tells you they get easily bored also at the same time. So you have to be very careful with them. But drugs are the last thing that you want to use them.
And I believe, and there's no reason why I said that. I got a nephew
Yes.
who was born in the United States.
Yes.
His father is from same place I come.
Yes.
That's my nephew. When he was born, he was just very energetic. And straight away, in about 3 years, 4 years, they put him on these drugs because they diagnosed him of having HDD.
Yes.
Which I've never heard of.
Yes.
Up to my 40 years old, I've never heard of HDD.
Yeah.
Until when I came in here and I asked the doctor, what is HDD? And he said, this is something that is very common in children. It's an effect that makes the children go out of control. And I said, out of control is, I said, but I remember when I was young, it was very, very young, and I can show you some marks on my forehead here and on my body.
Yeah.
And I would say I would probably be 6 years, 5, 6 years old, 4, 5, 6 years old. But I was running into a whole lot of trouble.
Exactly.
And I was hurting myself.
Oh, sure.
But anytime I come, my daddy says, well, you don't want to listen to nobody, and I'll be giving a little whooping because I went out of stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, not say give him these pills. They never said that.
Exactly.
Never heard about that.
Exactly.
And most surprisingly, Mr. Kiani, we sent this boy when he was 10 years old.
Yes.
And he was having this acting stuff coming on.
Yes.
We sent him to back home with no medication and nothing.
Wow.
They don't know what HDD is.
Exactly.
And he went over there with no medication at all. And he was there for 2 years. 2.5 years.
Wow.
I would say. But the 2.5 years he was off that drugs and was hanging with those folks out there.
Sure.
They were all doing the boys' things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we never did have any problems with him because if he is stubborn or hard-headed or have too much energy, you got peers who are like that.
Yeah.
They go out in the, I would say in the jungle, but they go out and
release their energy.
In the jungle, they go play around because the differences between here and probably third world countries and other countries that came out of third world countries that don't do too much with medicine. Of course, they do traditional medicine, but you will see that they have a lot of room to play and to roam about.
Absolutely.
Considered or compared to, let's say, here in Cincinnati, you have a house with a little space.
Yes, exactly.
So that is, for a human being, early years ago, they said first conflict started because human beings were invading each other's space, because human beings were actually given a 1 mile square area per person.
Yes. Yes.
So that's a big area.
Yeah, that's a big area.
You can play around and do all that kind of thing. But if you're in a very little space, it's just like jail or prisons. It shrinks your mind and your heart and everything back to that space.
Very true.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but when you go to where you have a lot of space, like you can play in, because in other places, I don't know what it's like in Iran, they have compounds instead of houses. So you play in the compound, it's a big yard.
Yeah.
go backyard of the compound and play out there.
Yeah.
If that is not enough, go out in the street and play out there.
Yeah.
If that is not enough, still you still go into the jungle and start doing some
Yeah.
new things.
Yeah.
So your mind is so much wide
Yeah.
to the space that you are living within. That helps psychologically. Then when you are in a very small place,
Yeah.
and
Exactly.
you want to maneuver with your mind, your brain, your consciousness.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And Iran, I mean, I don't know what's going on now.
No, but I'm saying, I mean,
Yep.
long time ago.
Yeah.
I'm trying to compare this
Yeah,
how
no,
society lives in the West and how
Exactly.
they live in the third world
Yeah,
countries.
exactly.
In the West, it's very, very small space that you are within.
Absolutely.
A house and a little
Absolutely.
thing. But in third world countries, it's a lot of space
Yes.
that you can explore yourself
Yes.
and your mind.
I can give you this example that how back then, the space was not an issue in, let's say, in Iran, which is a part of Asia or Africa. Whenever I used to go out with my dad to a trip or just hang out with him in the car, he would say, like, look at those streets over there. I said, yeah, look at those houses. Yeah, they were all farms, he says. They were all this, they were all that, or they were vacant. Or Tehran would finish up to here. Like, after this was only lands, only landscapes. And then I realized that, back then they had this sense of just, freedom, not being,
Maneuverability,
enclosed.
freedom,
Yes,
yeah.
exactly. So you're absolutely right. And lots of these problems that you see nowadays for kids, kids are being totally entrapped in these little spaces. You're absolutely right. And limitation from here and there, everywhere, So, but also, adults too. Adults, they don't want to deal with like the grown up person. He goes to work, he has a, maybe nasty manager, maybe some sarcastic, coworkers. He bottle up, he goes home, wife is angry, with something, God knows what, and bottle up. The kids nowadays, they're in trouble or made the trouble, or, they're growing up. Maybe mommy just found out like the boy is doing some drugs, or they're suspicious of something else. God knows what. Like, today's person is bottling up everything, not facing the music. And when I say responsibility, is that instead what it does, goes to the doctor without even testing the blood or anything like that, just prescribe, I don't want to name the drugs, you know what I'm talking about,
Right, exactly.
the antidepressant or whatever. And then next thing you know, this guy is docile and he's happy. He says, like, I don't have any anxiety, I don't have. Actually, one of them was my friend. I said, because, my friend, you're not even in this world anymore. When I look into your eyes, you're not here.
Something is in control.
Yeah. And, that's the fact of the matter. And, this movie actually is trying to say, hey, don't choose the easy out, the way easy out. Choose, the way that is a little bit harder, however, is the correct way, is the right way. And that is taking responsibility. Hey, if you have any problem with your manager, take a look at yourself in the mirror, because maybe you need to change yourself in order to see a different reaction from your manager, or your coworkers the same way. I give you an example about that. When I got to Cincinnati, the first year I couldn't speak, so I was a little bit bitter then, because people would try to, talk to me with sign language, and some people even thought I was like, mentally disabled or something.
Right, right,
And
right,
then,
right.
so I was a little bit bitter, and then,
And
on,
what causes that? What makes you a little bit bitter?
well, I couldn't, I'm a talkative person, number one. When I couldn't talk,
Yeah, I know
that
what
was a big
that's.
deal to
But
me.
what was I just want to have a little insight of that. Was it just something that you decided that you want to be quiet because you don't want to have too
No,
much?
no, I lost my vocal cord. I didn't have vocal cord. They reconstructed my vocal cord.
Okay, I see. I
Yeah,
see what you mean now.
yeah,
Okay.
and but anyway, the other thing was, immediately after my stay here in Cincinnati, 9/11, September 11 happened, and people automatically associated Iran with that act of terrorism without even knowing that there was no Iranian
On
in
the
that
hijack.
plane, the hijackers, none of them were Iranians. And so immediately, they would, I remember one day I wanted to get a job. I went to the job interview, and the guy said, "Oh, Kiumars Kiani, well, where are you from?" And I said, "Iran." And he said, "How many buildings have you blown up?" And I said,
He was trying to be
"Wow, are you
sarcastic.
serious?" But, the fact is, I had a choice to be bitter about all these things, or to kind of
Find another way.
boost up my energy, and just be, understand these people. Why are they, like this, and what's the history of Cincinnati? By accident, I came across, the history of Cincinnati and Cincinnatians, and that was through, the research that I was doing for the movie,
That you want
the
to.
Cincinnati beer story, the first one, which with my dear friend Mark Sweeney. And over there, I realized, oh my God, this city is awesome. Like, we have this, for the first time we did it, we did this, for the first time we did that, or a very famous person, like Spielberg was born over here, or Ted Turner was born over here, back.
Skillbox?
Yes, Steven Spielberg was born here,
In
yes.
Cincinnati.
Yes, he's a German Jew from Cincinnati.
All right. Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So, but I do know for one thing, like you said, I don't want to interrupt you, but I know Cincinnati has a lot of interesting
Oh
history.
yes,
Yeah.
oh yes. I mean, bad things, unfortunately, sometimes too. Like, um, the guy, the
Even Trump has some business here in
I think
Cincinnati.
so.
He,
I
he
think
started
so.
his some people I'm not, but
Yes,
he was in Cincinnati here
yes,
operating a housing complex over here.
hmm
It's a
hmm
project, but it's no more.
yes,
His family
yes,
transferred that to
yes,
him. So he, at his very early young years,
yes,
he was having some
yes.
activity in Cincinnati.
Very true. James Brown also had a company over, record company over here.
Okay.
Um, all these, people used to come over here and hang out over here for some reasons. Like Tom Cruise is not from here, but he has a sort of a
That's
mysterious love relationship with this city, because before becoming an actor, he wanted to become a Catholic priest,
oh
and he
wow.
actually attended at the Catholic school. I mean, the Catholic college over here. So he wanted to become a priest,
Okay.
and lots of interesting stories about our bridge, about our military industry, and so on and so forth. So once I changed my idea about Cincinnati and Cincinnatians, I'm telling you, like the next, few weeks, things change. And one day, I was doing this. You probably remember, I had a talk show, The Echo, and it was, by the way, it was a very controversial show, because conservatives hated me, liberals hated me, everybody hated me. Why? Because I said the truth the way it was. And then, but one day I was in the control room, and all of a sudden I realized all the people working down there on the stage, and everybody else, they were Americans. They were all from Cincinnati, and they were all Americans. And I said to myself, these are the same people, but I changed my point of view, and look at them. And I didn't know any of them before.
Right.
But look at it now. I know all these like-minded people.
Right. Exactly.
So The thing is that, once you change your energy, everything would, fall in place, and everything would be, the way it should be. So my emphasis by this movie also is this, like, maybe responsibility means this, because once you take responsibility, you don't blame others. You don't say, hey, my dad was a brutal man, or my mom didn't care
In
about
other
me
words, you
that
don't
much.
take things personal.
Exactly. And once you do that, take responsibility instead of popping pills or whatever, you know that's what it is. The Mannequin Behind the Curtain is about I can tell it's about responsibility, taking responsibility.
Okay. Well, that's quite interesting. And I think what you're trying to show to the people or viewers of this movie is you are trying to change their mentality. Is that what you're trying to
Sure.
while watching this movie?
Yes.
Towards what's happening now in the drugs infested.
Yes, exactly. That's, yeah. I am. There is an anti um, psychotropic drugs theme in this movie. I don't want, I let the viewers, the audience, draw that conclusion themselves. However, I do have, problem with that. And the other, there is one more thing that I kind of work in the movie, and that is, besides taking responsibility, it's very common nowadays in our society that um, men and women, it doesn't matter, we cannot stand each other.
Right.
We want a one season role. We want to live in the spring forever.
Okay.
And that's okay. I mean, that's okay.
If we
However,
can.
yeah, if you could. However, this is not how it is for now. We have 4 seasons. We have to, endure winter and fall in order to understand spring and summer.
Okay, good.
And so the mannequin basically is that ideal woman that some men actually wish to have, meaning a woman that doesn't talk, that doesn't argue, that doesn't cause problem, that's always ready.
Well, a mannequin is just a mannequin. It's just like a statue out there.
Exactly. But I'm saying, that goes back. Actually, you would see this in the movie, that it's a metaphor. The mannequin is mannequin, but it's a metaphor of, you know, some men and women, doesn't matter. It happened that the character of this story is a man, but women too, it doesn't matter. But some men would think, hey, I want a biological mannequin that be pretty, be always ready to make love to me, but doesn't argue, doesn't disagree with me or anything. This is not a woman. That is a mannequin that you want. So, mannequin in this movie is a metaphor, because you would see this is how the psychiatrists, our young psychiatrists, actually think about women. He doesn't have any idea what women are and doesn't want to deal with them.
Right.
But, so the mannequin is a manifestation of his hidden desire, dark desires.
Right.
That's what it is.
And how many people do you expect to be participating in this movie? What I mean, characters, not like the crowd itself.
Not the crew. Well, there are at least, I would say, 5 main characters in the
in the
movie.
Okay.
There are few side characters, but definitely 5 main characters in the movie, because it's a complicated. It's almost like a soap opera in
Kind of stuff.
yeah 90 minutes. So it's like a soap opera, like,
Right, right.
things are very confusing if you don't pay attention to the movie. But
Totally.
it's a love triangle, and inside of that love triangle, there are two other triangles too. So it's gonna be fun. Lots of twists.
Let me go for
Sure.
commercials, and then
Absolutely.
we'll continue with this music.
Absolutely.
With this movie anyway. It's very interesting that this movie, and hopefully I'll be able to see it.
Yes.
And I thought, like you said, I know before you start making, even planning to make a movie, always behind that your mind, you say, I want to do this because I want people to know about these things. And it's important that what you're doing about is people to be aware of what drugs are doing to people. What is this? What is the effects?
Yes.
Is it a good? Because it could be a bad, like what you just explained about your friend.
Yes.
For that 5 minutes, he said he's happy, but he's only taking about few minutes,
Yeah.
few hours,
Yeah. Exactly.
and you get back to
Exactly. Very true.
So that is nothing actually that drug is doing for you.
Yes. Exactly.
Because if it is giving you only 10 minutes, 15 minutes of good time in your mind, you have how many more hours and minutes left in the 24 hours?
Yeah. Yeah.
So in the 24 hours, you are left with yourself with no drugs or nothing. When the drug has already changed your ways of doing things, and nothing is able to continue to do that except that particular drug.
Exactly.
Because other than that, I would say now the drug took control.
Yeah.
So if I am not there,
Yeah.
you're going to be like this.
Yeah.
Unless I'm there.
Yeah. Very true.
So what we need is the complete eradication.
Yes. Exactly.
And like you were saying, complete eradication is not about pills.
Yeah.
But it's about how do you work with your own sight.
Yes. Exactly.
How do you change yourself?
Exactly.
Because there's a saying that says, it's my responsibility to change myself.
Yes.
But it's not my responsibility to change you.
Yes. Yes.
So, and people try.
Yeah.
But if you cannot change something, don't worry about that thing to be like a change yourself.
Exactly. Exactly.
Just like what you just said.
Exactly.
Exactly. And that's what very, very important.
Yes, that's very true.
And when you look at the history of mankind,
yes,
mental problem has been the history of mankind since man has been put on earth. They have different ways of treating this mental attack. And every society and every culture have a different ways how to deal with these things.
Yes.
In some cases, let's say 200 years ago.
Yeah.
How were people dealing with depression?
Exactly.
There were people depressing.
Exactly.
Anyway, but how were they doing it?
Exactly.
Maybe we forgot, or maybe we don't want to think about that, but maybe we just want to make money.
Exactly. Exactly. There's so many reasons that nowadays,
right?
We want the easy way out.
And I'm very frank with this, and I can say this: I don't think doctors are very, very fair with the public.
Yes. Yes.
Because when I say being fair with the public, it's because it's all about money.
Yeah.
And they care about the pharmaceutical companies.
That's very true.
More than what I know. Your job as a doctor, you have been trained. You want to be a doctor to cure people. But doctors are having conflicting ideas.
Exactly.
About certain things.
Exactly.
You watch TV, and you see doctors would come and talk to you about natural remedies. Say, forget about doctors. What they're telling you is not okay. It's just, and I believe that.
Yeah.
And I have a conversation with one of my friends. He's a pharmaceutical.
Yeah.
He did pharmaceutical anyway.
Yes.
He's a pharmacist.
Yes.
And he told me that the pharmaceutical companies actually do have some deal with doctors.
Huh.
To help them push their drugs.
Sure, sure. Yeah, that's very true.
So what they do is they would give the doctors the actual good mixture of the drug. Yes. Just to get you in. But when it goes to the market, it's a different quality.
That's true.
Because now it's about money. But doctors are there to introduce people to those drugs. That's why the people, doctors are putting people on. You can be on one drug for like a year,
Yeah.
and another drug comes out. They put you off another drug.
Yeah.
Say, okay, forget about this one now. That one is not working.
Yeah.
Why is not working?
Yeah. Exactly.
Sometimes I said, but when you were making these drugs, you got all these ingredients in there.
Yeah.
It convinced me that it's going to help me.
Yeah.
Now, if you turn around and tell me now I have a better one that's going to help you more than that, but basically there would be now they have two ways of saying it, generic and
Yeah.
the real
Very
thing.
true.
But Mr. Kenny, this is very interesting, and is very proud of you
Oh, thank
for
you.
trying to put these things
Thank you.
together. And I hope you the best, and I hope that this thing works well with you. Not
Thank.
only being that one movie you are going to show to the public, but many, many more that would have ideas, because we need movies to, like I said before, movies are there to teach you something.
Absolutely.
It could be fun, funny, and all that, but it's teaching you something.
Yes, and very great point. Great point, Moro, because we both are coming from a different culture. You're coming from African culture, I'm coming from Asian culture. And then when I say Asian, not that, because people in United States think that, like Chinese descent or Japanese, that's Asia. But no, Asia actually, part of in Russia is, Asian. People don't know. But anyway, the fact of the matter is that, you know, what is now been missing in our society is in United States and Europe and Western societies, basically, that people don't want to just understand what's the meaning of cinema, or what's the meaning of I would say programs, because in those countries, in other countries, for instance, cinema, the ministry or department that is in charge of cinema is usually Department of Education. It's a part of Department of Education, believe it or not. So in a way, you just don't go and sit in a theater and look at some funny stuff and get out, because lots of these movies you can make them on your computer. If you know lots of visual effects, you can make it on your computer, but that doesn't teach you anything. That doesn't move your soul. That doesn't change your point of view to the world. And a movie could be entertaining, and at the same time, by the same token, could be teaching you something. Like in old Soviet Union, for instance, they would call a filmmaker really a fighter, but they would call him a soldier. They would call him, and when you would ask, like, what kind of war is involved, say ignorance. Their job is to basically brighten people's mind. I mean, I'm not saying communism was the light, but I'm just saying how other countries were looking at a filmmaker. They didn't look in. They did not look at him as somebody who just entertain you. A filmmaker is not a clown. A filmmaker really is a teacher, could be a teacher.
Right.
I try my best to do that, but that's very nice of you to say that. I try to basically have a better model in cinema, and I'm lucky enough to I'm lucky enough coming from a country that has that kind of cinema. The Iranian films, always been, you know, discussed. At least I can say that in good festivals, in cultural and good festivals in abroad. Cannes festivals and so on.
And one thing also I want to ask you, I know you were the author of this movie, not the book, because it's based on a book.
Yes.
But you're the author of the movie that's coming up. why did you actually choose that particular book to make your movie?
That's a good question. The, excuse me. That's a good question. Excuse me. Oh, sorry. Uh, it goes back when I was a younger man. I sort of thought the same way as this character. There's a little bit of me in this movie and in this book. I uh, had problem with opposite sex ladies, and one day I was just talking to a friend of mine, and I kept saying, hey, I have problem with this, problem with that, and then he listened. He just listened like for maybe 45 minutes to my stories, and finally he said, you know what? You know what you want? I said, no, I don't know what I want. He said, you want a dead woman. You don't want a woman. And then it's based on the principle of the serendipity. Like few days later, I was in the library and I was checking all these books, and then all of a sudden I came across this really tiny book, the Mannequin Behind the Curtain, which was in Persian. And then I'm like, I never read this book. Like and I knew Sadeh Hidayat, but I never read this particular book. And I read it in I guess I read it in 20 minutes. I'm like, wow, that was that was an awesome story. And I was thinking about it. And then as a film student, I jot down my own idea and I turn it to a different script, which
Let
was a
me
film.
just stop you there for a minute. I
Sure.
got to do this musical break.
All right.
Now and then we'll just go forward. All right, that was PSA. Oh, it's top of the hour, uh, 88.3 Cincinnati. I'm here with Mr. Kiani, the author of a movie coming up, The Man Behind the Mannequin. He was just saying before I go for that PSA, he was saying he got this book from a library and he read it, and that really boosted him up and said, I got to put this into reality, right?
Yes, that is correct. That is correct. As a young man, I was very moved by that little book. I saw a little bit of myself in that book. So
Great.
that made me.
And that makes it more of a meaningful thing because you would be able to relate it and then even explain furthermore as to it says like this: who feels it knows it better.
Yeah, yeah,
So
exactly.
as you were feeling that, and so you know it better because not only reading the book, but you were able to associate yourself when you search your own soul.
That's true.
You search your own soul and said, "Hey, looks like this person is talking about me."
Yes, yes,
And
absolutely.
since he's talking about you, so you know yourself better than
That's
whoever is
true.
talking about you.
That's true.
So now you said, okay, now that I know myself better,
Yes,
then I would better explain myself to the people by making it a movie.
very true. Very true.
You
Very
see,
true.
and that is a very good, nice idea, and that was wonderful. And I think you have done a wonderful thing out of that. And
I appreciate it.
hopefully, you will get some more. Thank you so much. I mean, we have to backtrack because we were not on mic, but like I said, I can ask you the same thing again about the mannequin thing. When you read that, that actually give you the ability to come up with these things because of that little movie,
Yes.
that little book.
Yes,
That
yes.
was very gorgeous.
Thank you.
And I hope that this thing works well
Thank
with you.
you.
And I hope that you come with many more ideas
I
like
appreciate
this
it.
because you are going to be living the American dream. Because the reason I said that is because people who come into this country
Yes.
come with a lot of ideas.
Sure, that
And,
made this country so great.
Yeah,
Yes.
a lot of skills.
Yes.
Because if you look at the history of the United States, most of the big people who are here that we are talking about them, their families, and now they think they are full-blown American.
Yes.
But we look at it back and said, hey, they just come from Iran.
Exactly.
Or somebody goes, oh, he's from UK.
Oh yeah,
Or
exactly.
he's a German.
Yeah.
So, but now it's been 200 years now.
Yes.
So you are kind of more away from your original culture.
Yes.
Now you are within the American culture.
Yes, exactly.
Which is understood because it's a contribution of different cultures that make this place very great.
Exactly.
But thank you so much,
You're
Mr.
welcome.
Kiani, and I
appreciate
hope that I'll get you back in here and see
Thank
what the
you.
development
Thank
of
you
this
for
series
having
is
me.
about. I appreciate it. Thank you too.
Yes.
And to see what is the stage, what stage you are. I would be very interested to bring you back
Definitely.
here until we
I
get the movie
appreciate
rolling,
it.
so that I would know from what stages you are now and what do you want people to know now about
Sure.
that thing. So being the case, now we